wanted to talk to you about something that's pretty important. Somebody sent me an article, and this article caught me off guard. So let's take a look at it and analyze it and see what we can come up with. There was a time when Agile felt liberating. Teams owned their work, conversations mattered more than documentation, and progress was measured by outcomes, not activity. Then somewhere along the way, tools stepped in to support the process. What followed in many organizations was not support, but substitution. Jira did not break Agile by design. It became the easiest place for organizations to quietly reintroduce control, visibility, and ultimately micromanagement under the label of transparency. I saw this shift clearly in a large healthcare program I was leading. The intent was simple: improve visibility across a distributed team, reduce delivery risk, align stakeholders. Jira was rolled out with enthusiasm. Within a few months, something subtle but powerful changed. Conversations drastically reduced. Dashboard reviews increased. Managers stopped asking what's blocking you and started asking, why is this ticket still in progress? The language of delivery moved from outcomes to statuses. The problem is not the tool. The problem is how quickly a tool becomes the system of truth. When Jira becomes the primary lens through which leadership views progress, behavior starts to optimize for the tool instead of the customer. Engineers begin slicing work into smaller tickets, not because it improves clarity, but because it improves the reporting structure. Scrum Masters spend more time ensuring fields are updated than removing impediments. Product owners become backlog administrators instead of value drivers. Data quietly reinforces this behavior. According to the State of Agile reports by Digital AI, a majority of organizations adopt Agile to improve visibility and predictability. That sounds reasonable until visibility turns into surveillance. Research from McKinsey has also shown that excessive reporting and tracking layers can reduce team productivity by up to 20 to 30% due to the context switching and administrative overhead. The irony is hard to miss. The very system introduced to improve efficiency often ends up slowing the teams down. The real damage is the cultural damage. When every ticket movement is tracked, time-stamped, and questioned, autonomy starts to disappear. Teams begin to feel observed rather than trusted. Decision-making slows down because people optimize for approval rather than impact. Creativity drops because experimentation doesn't fit neatly into the predefined workflow. Over time, even high-performing teams start behaving like task executors. I remember a sprint review where everything looked perfect on a dashboard. All the stories were moved to done, the velocity was consistent, stakeholders were happy, but when we looked deeper, the release had minimal customer impact. We delivered output, not outcomes. Jira told a story of success that reality did not support. That was the moment it became clear we're not using Jira as a tool. Jira was using us to define success. Okay, let's pause there. I love Atlassian, and I think it's kind of raw for us to pick on Jira specifically. I think every tool kind of has this impact. I see people who use Azure DevOps, Jira, Monday, you name it, pick your poison, Rally, version 1 in a day. It's just every tool was designed to help you be more effective. But what most tools forgot is they focus so heavily on delivery, and the reporting is all delivery driven, because the mechanisms of flags and databases, I get it, but it left out the whole part about discovery and ideation and all the pieces that really make Agile successful in the organization. So how do we regain focus on value and regain focus on outcomes and still be able to use a tool? The answer is we have to reframe the way the reports are showing. So I'm all for, look, I've been CEO, CIO, CTO, and COO of many organizations, EIO. I've earned all my letters. And what I can tell you is leadership doesn't want a specific report from Jira. What they want is a dashboard that tells them the whole story. Now, one of the things that's very rarely tracked is consumer satisfaction and how happy are our customers, and do they actually even like what we're producing? Are they good with what we have? And what I can tell you is we find that to be a struggle as leaders because we get the story that everything's done, or even worse, we get the story that nothing's done, but the customer's happy because we did other things that satisfied a customer instead of the things that were in the backlog that we anticipated needed to be done. So it becomes a form of micromanagement hidden in plain sight. It doesn't come through as direct control. It comes through systems that make control easy, scalable, and defensible. Leaders don't feel like they're micromanaging because they're just looking at the data. But when the data starts replacing dialogue, all the trust goes away, all the trust erodes. Fixing this doesn't require abandoning the tool. You don't need to give up Jira. You don't need to give up Azure DevOps. It requires redefining what the tool's role is and how we're going to use it. There's no rule saying you can't use the API to create custom reports, to act as a support system instead of a performance system. Jira is intended to enable conversations, not replace them. I remember when Mike Cohn was originally talking about story cards, and he said a story card is a placeholder for a future conversation. And that really resonated with a lot of people. The card was never intended to be the dichotomy of the work. The card was intended to be a guide to have a future conversation about this work. Teams should be evaluated on outcomes, such as customer value, cycle time improvement, and release impact, not on how clean their Jira board looks or any other board. Leaders need to shift from asking status-related questions to asking impact-related questions. What problem did we solve this sprint? What changed for the user? What have we learned as a result of the changes we made? In that same healthcare program, I'm going back to the article, they made a deliberate shift. We reduced mandatory fields, stopped using velocity as a performance indicator. Thank you. Velocity is a vanity metric. We can talk about that later. It's good for forecasting, but it's not good for much else. We replaced dashboard reviews with short outcome-based discussions. Within 2 quarters, cycle time improved by 18%. More importantly, team engagement scores went up significantly. People started talking again. Ownership came back. The uncomfortable truth is the tools that we use amplify our behavior. I'm going to say it again. The tools amplify the behavior. That's so important. If a leadership team leans towards control, tools like Jira will scale that control and form micromanagement. If leadership leans towards trust, the same exact tool can enable clarity without suffocating autonomy. Agile was never about tracking work perfectly. It was about delivering value continually. The moment the tool becomes more important than the outcome or the team, you're no longer doing Agile. You're doing structured micromanagement with really enhanced dashboards. At first I thought I was going to hate this article, but I wound up loving it. It's absolutely cool. Well done. That's going to do it for this episode. If you have a topic you want us to discuss, learn more at agiledad.com. We would love to hear from you. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care. Bye now.